A shocking poll out of Iowa that is from a reliable pollster shows that this race may be breaking in favor of Kamala Harris. So I'm going to break down this info, and it isn't just the top line of who's winning the state, but also the underlying numbers and what this could potentially mean. So first off, before I even get to the poll, this is the track record of this pollster. This is one of the most reliable pollsters in the country, Ann Selzer, and they do Iowa specifically. So their track record here. In 2022 for Senate, they were bang on. In 2020 for president, they were one off. In 2020 for Senate, they were a few off. And to be clear, all these are within the margin of error, except for one, which I'll get to. 2018, this one right here, 2018 for governor, they had Democrat up by 12, a Republican won by 3. Now, I went, because I was curious about this, because this one is clearly different than the rest of them here, which are almost exactly on. I looked deeper into it, and about a third of supporters in each camp, this is the article about that poll at the time in 2018, and even they were not confident in their numbers, because a third of the supporters for each of the candidates said that they could still be persuaded to vote for somebody else. This is not the case for the Harris-Trump poll. I'll get to that data in a minute. But the margin of error here was 4.2. So this was off by 5. So it was a bit outside the margin of error. But the rest of these, I mean, look at this. A couple off in 2016. 2016, this was like, people were shocked that Trump won as big as he did. They were off by only a couple. And so Trump won that by a couple more than what they were polling. But this was after a Democrat, Obama, had won that state. So again, going to that, this was a pollster that was seeing something that a lot of other pollsters were not seeing at the time, that Trump was going to win and win in bigger numbers. And again, they were off by one here in 2014 and one in 2020 or 2012. All right, here it is. Kamala Harris leading in Iowa, 47-44. This is wild, absolutely wild, because of what Trump was expected to do. Iowa was not being considered a swing state at all. And now you have Kamala Harris winning it by 3 points. Now, the margin of error is 3.4. So 3.4 percentage points is the margin of error. Even if, let's be clear, Trump can still win Iowa, of course. Let's say he wins outside the margin of error. Let's say this poll is off by 5 points. That's still a massive drop from where he was in Iowa, which could potentially mean, if the numbers bear out in the way that it's doing here across the rest of the states, mainly swing states, then we're talking about a disaster for Donald Trump, even if he wins Iowa. So let me go through some of this. This is what I was talking about. So while the poll that they were off on in 2018 by about 5 points, because a third of those voters said they could vote for somebody else, that's not the case here. So likely voters with Harris as preferred candidate, 96% of them, only 4% could be persuaded. And the similar numbers here with Trump, 95% say their mind is made up, only 4% could be moved. Meaning this poll is likely to be more accurate than, at the very least, that poll for governor in 2018 was. Now, this is the breakdown by gender, and this is what is pushing this. Women coming out to vote for Kamala Harris, 56%. Compare that to men who are at 52% for Donald Trump. So a greater majority of women are voting for Harris compared to men for Trump. And we're not winning with Gen X, as Harris leads with likely Iowa voters 55 and older, and with those under 35, while Trump leads with ages 35 to 54. Facebook has done a number on Generation X, and it is sad to see. That said, it's being offset by the amount of older voters that are breaking for Kamala Harris in a way that you may not have expected in past elections. Now, also worth noting here, are the independents, more likely Iowa voters who identify as independents, support Kamala Harris than Donald Trump? 46 to 39%. And this, I found to be really interesting. This was sort of buried at the bottom, but was there ever a time that you supported Donald Trump? So these are, sorry, to be clear, likely Iowa voters who did not name Donald Trump as their preferred candidate, meaning, to be fair, they may also be voting for RFK or other, but that is a small percentage. If we go back to the numbers there, small percentage of the larger piece. But point being, they ask here, was there ever a time you supported Donald Trump? 16% of people had once supported Trump and are not supporting him anymore. Likely, the majority of these are for Kamala Harris now. So that's not going to help him either. If this is a pattern that continues across other states, it could be a fun election. Now, don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Things can change, and things do change and have changed. But the reason why polling right now, and I'll get to a few more in a second, is so important is because at this point, the vast majority of people have made up their mind, and many of them have already voted, as early voting has already started. So these polls tend to be a little more accurate, of course, for obvious reasons. We are closer to the actual election. So here's some more recent polling. Marist has Harris up by 2 in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. Marquette has Harris up by 1 in Wisconsin, and I just showed you the Selzer poll. And this just came out this morning. New York Times, Siena. North Carolina, Harris up by 2. Georgia, Harris up by 1. Wisconsin, Harris up by 2. Nevada, Harris up by 3. Michigan tied. Pennsylvania tied. Arizona, Trump up by 4. Now, what could this mean in a potential electoral college? Well, interactive polls broke that down for us, showing us here that Harris would win, even if she tied, or let's say not tied, obviously, but didn't win Pennsylvania, Michigan. Harris would still win with 274 electoral college votes because she'd be picking up Nevada, Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin. Huh? This is crazy. So this would be a wild map, by the way, to not win Michigan and Pennsylvania, but pick up North Carolina and win Nevada, Georgia. But regardless, there are several paths to victory here for Kamala Harris in a way that Trump currently does not have, at least based on the data, with a few days left in the election. This is going to be nail biting, but if she pulls out Iowa, it's over.